Around 1500 BC, while most of the world was still in the Bronze Age, a civilization emerged in the swamps of southern Mexico. They built massive ceremonial centers, created sophisticated drainage systems, and carved enormous stone heads from single blocks of basalt. These are the Olmecs, the first major civilization in Mesoamerica, and one of history's greatest mysteries. The Olmec civilization flourished along the Gulf Coast of Mexico, in what is now Veracruz and Tabasco. This was not prime real estate. It was swampy lowlands, prone to flooding, thick with jungle. Yet the Olmecs chose this harsh environment to build one of the ancient world's most sophisticated cultures. Their main ceremonial centers were at San Lorenzo and La Venta. San Lorenzo, founded around 1400 BC, was the earliest. It featured massive earthen platforms, essentially artificial mountains, that served as the foundation for temples and plazas. La Venta came later, around 900 BC, and was even more ambitious. It had a pyramid over 100 feet tall, massive stone monuments, and an advanced drainage system that controlled water flow throughout the complex. But the Olmecs are most famous for one thing: the colossal heads. 17 have been discovered so far, though archaeologists believe more remain buried. Each one was carved from a single block of basalt, weighing anywhere from 6 to 50 tons. They stand 6 to 10 feet tall, depicting helmeted figures with distinct facial features. Every head is unique. Different facial features, different helmet designs. Some scholars believe they represent individual rulers, portraits of Olmec kings carved in stone to commemorate their reigns. And here's where the mystery begins. These features don't match the typical indigenous populations of Mesoamerica. The heads have broad noses, full lips, wide-set eyes, and what appears to be kinky or tightly curled hair beneath their helmets. They look African. This observation isn't new. Since the heads were first discovered in the 1860s, people have noted the resemblance. In the 1970s, researcher Ivan van Sertima published a controversial book arguing that Africans had crossed the Atlantic and influenced Olmec culture. His theory: African sailors from the Mali Empire or ancient Egypt made contact with the Americas around 1500 BC, bringing technology, culture, and their physical features, which the Olmecs then immortalized in stone. It's a compelling idea, but mainstream archaeology rejects it entirely. There's no physical evidence of African contact. No African artifacts have been found at Olmec sites. No African DNA traces in ancient Olmec remains. No written records from either Africa or Mesoamerica suggesting transoceanic voyages. The prevailing archaeological explanation is that the Olmecs simply had diverse facial features within their own population, or that the artistic style exaggerated certain traits for symbolic or aesthetic reasons. Some researchers point out that indigenous populations in the Americas have always had varied physical features. The idea that all Native Americans looked one specific way is a modern misconception. But the mystery remains. Why did the Olmecs choose to depict these specific features in their most important monuments? And why does the resemblance to African features seem so strong? There's no definitive answer. And that's what makes it fascinating. The basalt used to carve them didn't come from nearby. It came from the Tuxtla Mountains, over 60 miles away, across rivers, swamps, and dense jungle. These stones weighed up to 50 tons. To put that in perspective, that's the weight of about 9 full-grown elephants, or a loaded semi-truck. The Olmecs had no wheels, no pack animals like horses or oxen, no metal tools, no cranes or pulleys, yet somehow they transported these massive boulders 60 miles through some of the most difficult terrain imaginable, then carved them with incredible precision using only stone tools. How? Archaeologists believe they used a combination of log rollers, rafts, and sheer human labour. The theory is that the Olmecs cut down trees to create rolling logs, placed the stones on top, and slowly rolled them to the nearest river. Then they loaded the stones onto wooden rafts and floated them downstream to their destination. Once the stones arrived, workers would have used stone hammers, chisels, and abrasives to carve the heads. It would have taken months, maybe years, to complete a single head. This explanation makes sense in theory, but in practice, moving a 50-ton boulder 60 miles through dense jungle using only logs and rafts? That's an extraordinary feat of engineering, organization, and manpower. It suggests the Olmecs had a highly organized society with centralized authority. Someone had to coordinate the labor, plan the logistics, and oversee the entire operation. This wasn't a small village project. This was a civilization-level undertaking. The Olmecs didn't just make heads, they were far more advanced than most people realize. They built pyramids before the Maya. They created the first known writing system in the Americas, glyphs that predate Mayan hieroglyphs. They developed a sophisticated calendar and were skilled astronomers. Their drainage systems at La Venta were incredibly advanced. They used U-shaped stone channels lined with basalt to control water flow, prevent flooding, and create artificial ponds. This kind of hydraulic engineering wasn't seen again in Mesoamerica for centuries. They also established long-distance trade networks that stretched across Mexico. Olmec artifacts, jade carvings, obsidian tools, pottery have been found hundreds of miles from their heartland. They influenced every major Mesoamerican civilization that came after them. The Maya adopted their calendar system, their writing, and their architectural styles. The Zapotecs, the Teotihuacans, and eventually the Aztecs all built on Olmec foundations. That's why archaeologists call the Olmecs the mother culture of Mesoamerica. They were the first, and everyone else learned from them. But around 400 BC, the Olmec civilization mysteriously declined. Their ceremonial centers were abandoned. The colossal heads were buried or left to the jungle. The sophisticated society that built pyramids and carved 50-ton monuments simply disappeared. No one knows why. Some theories suggest environmental collapse. The swampy lowlands may have become uninhabitable due to flooding, soil depletion, or disease. Without a stable agricultural base, the population couldn't be sustained. Others point to internal conflict. Perhaps rival factions within Olmec society fought for control, leading to civil war and the eventual collapse of centralized authority. There's also the possibility of invasion. A more powerful group could have conquered the Olmecs, destroyed their centers, and absorbed their population. Or maybe it was a combination of factors: environmental stress, social upheaval, and external pressure all happening at once. Whatever the cause, the Olmecs vanished from history. Their cities were swallowed by the jungle, their achievements were forgotten, and the colossal heads they left behind became silent witnesses to a lost civilization. Today, the Olmec heads still stand in museums and archaeological sites across Mexico. They're some of the most iconic artifacts in the Americas, but they're also some of the most mysterious. Were they inspired by African contact that we have no record of? Did the Olmecs possess advanced knowledge that we've lost? Or are they simply the product of a unique and sophisticated culture that developed independently, creating art that just happened to resemble features from across the ocean? The truth is, we don't know, and maybe we never will. The Olmec civilization left us with monuments, artifacts and questions, but they left very few answers. That's the legacy of the Olmecs. A civilization that emerged out of nowhere, built wonders that shouldn't have been possible, and then disappeared, leaving behind only stone heads with faces that don't quite fit the story we've been told. What do you think explains the African features? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more ancient mysteries that challenge what we know about history, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because the oldest civilizations often leave the biggest mysteries behind.